Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. After a week of Israel's biggest military operation in Gaza since 1967, are we headed towards a ground offensive or a ceasefire? The wheels of diplomacy were slow to get in motion after the surprise December 27th attack by Israel, but they're more than up and running now. We're pleased to welcome Nassif Hitti, the Arab League's ambassador in Paris. Thanks for being with us on the France 24 interview. I just want to run down with our viewers. Let's see, we've got the French president, Nicolas Sarkozy, who Monday is expected in Jerusalem. We've got the European Union foreign ministers. We've got the Turkish Prime Minister, Erdogan, who's been doing some shuttle diplomacy of his own, the Middle East Quartet. Where does the Arab League fit in all this?
Well, the Arab League has been active from day one on that matter. We convened a ministerial meeting on the 31st, last day of the year, and we tabled a draft resolution at the Security Council, and a ministerial delegation will be going to New York this weekend in order to push for the adoption of this resolution. But the basic aim of this matter, and we are consulting, of course, we are in permanent consultation with the countries and actors you just mentioned. But what we are trying to do, basically, is to have an immediate ceasefire, to put an end to this aggression, the worst since '67, and present a package deal. What is needed, if we talk about truce, it's not truce for truce, it's true, but it must be based on new elements, such as lifting the blockade, stopping the policy of strangulation of the Palestinian population, providing international security to civilian population, and basically also opening the passages, but basically also providing guarantees that we need to have guarantees that the truce will be respected in or under these conditions.
Now, Ambassador Hitti, the U.S. and Britain have said regarding the resolution that you mentioned that's in a draft form right now in front of the UN,
Absolutely,
that they object to the fact that it doesn't mention the Hamas attacks.
We've seen another objection which we were appalled to see that when we mentioned immediate ceasefire, some have given it a different interpretation. Immediate is immediately, is right now. Some have spoken of durable. I think everything could be discussed, but the basic tenets, what we look at is the basic tenets, and we believe that these basic tenets, which I just mentioned, do suit the interest of real, serious, genuine truce. That's at the end of the day is in the interest of all the parties concerned. We are underlying the importance of these matters, but we must start with putting an immediate end, again I underline immediate, to this tragedy, to this crime, to this massacre that's happening under our eyes, which will definitely and unfortunately have negative effect on long term for peace in the region.
Egypt's foreign minister has come out and said there's no use going to the United Nations, I'm paraphrasing, with resolutions if those resolutions don't only unilaterally blame Israel.
What we are trying to do first and foremost is to talk about immediate ceasefire. So you could interpret it the way you like to
But you mentioned in the outset of our discussion, you qualify it as the Israeli aggression already there. If you're trying to broker a ceasefire,
of course, the way we see it, and the way someone coming even from Mars would see it, it's an aggression. I mean, the quantity of fire, the volume of fire, the weapons used. But what you are saying is what we need now. We could work on the phraseology. What is needed is an immediate ceasefire. When we talk immediate ceasefire, it's immediate ceasefire. It's clear. And second, and it could be interpreted for those who have a problem with it in a balanced way, unless they want something else, the continuation to create new conditions. New conditions cannot be created. The only new conditions that could be created out of this situation are more difficult conditions and more radicalization in the Palestinian territories, in the Arab world, and more complications. And we are enumerating these elements, which, if you could discuss with anybody, are elements that would consolidate a truce. You know, we had 6 months of truce for some time last, but that truce was there while there were still strangulation and active blockade of the Palestinian territories. We cannot go back. We cannot go back to a stalemate. And let's remember that the key issue is the issue of occupation, and that Israel remains responsible, according to international humanitarian law, to the Fourth Geneva Convention, still responsible for Gaza, because it's the real actor, state, controlling Gaza. controlling the access to Gaza, the maritime access, the sky access, and also the borders of Gaza. So basically, what we are talking about, let's have a ceasefire, immediate ceasefire, and then discuss these elements in a package deal, which to us are very balanced. And when we talk about them, we are talking about commitment by everybody. We're talking about guarantees. But what we need is to have an international protection of the civilian population, Palestinian civilian population in this case. And what is the outcome of this agreement will definitely have to be respected by everybody, and we'll be the first to say it must be respected by everybody.
Israelis would answer that protecting the Palestinian civilian population, yes, but at the same time, Hamas rocket attacks have also targeted civilians.
We are talking about the way out of this crisis. If we want to go back into the immediate past, we could also say that Israel was doing incursions and attack here and there. We'll never get out of this vicious circle. What we are talking about is how to create a new stable condition of truce, consolidated truce. We cannot have truce when you are still strangulating the Palestinian population by conscious politics or policies.
So can the Arab League in that case call for Israel to stop its attack and Hamas to stop its rocket attacks at the same time?
Our draft proposal is very clear on that matter. We are talking immediate ceasefire, okay? When you say immediate ceasefire, it's immediate ceasefire. It's immediate ceasefire to everybody. But what we are saying, all these are the 5 elements that we consider. Let's discuss them. If somebody feels that there is no need to lift the blockade, we would take issue with that somebody. You cannot maintain. The key issue is the issue of occupation. Let's not forget to focus on the key issue there. The issue is occupation. The issue is a return to a status quo that is unacceptable, illegitimate and illegal and unacceptable for the Palestinians. For the Israelis, it was a very nice status quo. You continue the strangulation of the population and you want to have truce. It doesn't go this way.
Arab League Ambassador Nassif Hitti is our guest on the France 24 interview. We're discussing the situation in Gaza. Let's turn back the clock now to Christmas Day in Cairo. Israeli Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni meeting Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak just 48 hours before the attack on Gaza. The timing of that meeting has shocked public opinion in the Arab world. What's your reaction to those images we're seeing here?
Well, it was part of the Egyptians' diplomatic activities. Activities.
That's not how it's been interpreted, though, in the streets of most Arab capitals.
I've read the interpretations of the many in the Arab public opinion. I do understand one thing in the public opinion. Of course, I am part of the public opinion before becoming or being an official. I know that people feel very bad about it, outrageous about the situation of the Israeli attack on Gaza, and then people go into interpreting different events differently. I don't see it this way myself. I don't see that this meeting could be interpreted like it's interpreted by some in the public opinion. And we know that you have different political agendas in the region. I mean, one thing is clear. We have many Arab differences, many Arab divergences. We have Palestinian divergences. We have Arab regional divergences. We have many problems. And this issue exploded. This disaster, this tragedy is happening amidst these developments, which definitely are complicating the matters further. But again, we have to keep focusing on the key issue, which is how to end occupation and how to create conditions for stability in the region. And I don't think by trying to put pressure on Hamas and trying to break down Gaza that one could think that the Israelis are serving the cause of peace. They are investing into more tragedy in the region. 2 lessons are important to look at after 60 years of war and tragedies in the region for us and for the Israelis. One is that there is no military solution to a political problem. And second, that every time you try a military solution, you push away a political settlement to a problem. So that's the key issue. I would understand now the political fist-fighting and backbiting occurring among different actors in the Arab world, but this is not the key issue here.
But you mentioned those divergences between key actors in the Arab world. We talked about, obviously, the divergence between Israel and Hamas, the one between the Palestinians themselves. Here, you've got Egypt on the one hand, and you have Iran, Syria, who back Hamas.
Well, Iran is not an Arab country. When we want to, it's a neighbor, and we would like to have good relations with Iran as Arab world. We would like to have good relations, but as I am saying, this crisis erupted amidst these developments in the Arab world. The Arab world currently is not at a point at its best at this particular time. But what I am saying, regardless of this very unfortunate and sad situation, I say this as an Arab, which reduce our capacity to act collectively. Regardless of that, we must keep focusing currently on the key issue. And the key issue is to have a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire, and to work out a stable, solid truce, respected by everybody, of course.
Nassif Hitti, you've studied conflict resolution throughout your career as a diplomat. Is peace between Israel and a Hamas-led Gaza possible?
Peace is always possible. You don't have to like your enemies. Usually you don't like your enemies. Peace is possible. I forget about the actors when I talk about peace. I talk about talking to your enemy. You don't have to like your enemy, but there should be references for peace. What are the references for peace? If you go and discuss, and you sit and discuss, you negotiate. Not to discuss, you negotiate according to basic Security Council resolutions, to the Madrid references, to the roadmap references, to the Arab League initiative, Arab Peace Initiative, that's very clear on having a peaceful relations with Israel if Israel meet certain demands. And I use demands on purpose, meaning stopping occupation, ceasing occupation. Then you could make peace. But you cannot make peace by slicing the issue. The salami approach doesn't help making peace. If we have to draw one lesson again from the Middle East conflict, it's the following: that building bridges to the middle of the river doesn't produce peace. We have to go straight and discuss the key issues and define what are the key issues and have a global approach to that matter.
Just very briefly, so that means getting to the table, not just Israel and Hamas.
Getting to the table, there is the Palestinian Authority that represents the Palestinian people. And Abbas himself has the responsibilities, the full competence to negotiate as chairman of the PLO and as president of the Palestinian Authority to negotiate. We are talking about negotiations. What is needed here is to negotiate about all issues, not for Israel to choose what issues we negotiate and what issues we just put under the table. And the second point, we have to have a third party sitting there, playing the role of facilitator, but also of guarantor that we are negotiating. And as a referee.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. Who that third party will be will have to be the discussion.
It will be the quartet, the United States. We are calling for peace. Come and judge who doesn't want peace. But peace is not a matter of making pieces.
Nassif Hitti, thank you for joining us. That's it for this edition. Thank you for watching the France 24 interview. More news on the way.